Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you in advance for participating in this webinar. This particular webinar is part of an ongoing series that Talent Quest will be doing on various topics associated with talent management technology. The topic of today's webinar is using cloud-based technology to enhance the talent management lifecycle. Our presenter is Kevin Sessions, President of Talent Quest. And before we get started, I just wanted to let everyone know that we have muted the phone lines. If you have questions, please type them into the Q&A box at the bottom right-hand corner of the online webinar window. We will answer all questions at the end of the presentation. We will be sending this presentation out to all participants in a recorded, available through a recording, and we will do that by the end of this week. If you have any additional questions after the presentation has concluded, please feel free to email them to Kevin Sessions at ksessions@talentquest.com. That email is also available on the first slide of the presentation. Kevin will be happy to answer any questions as they come in throughout the week. Thank you again for your participation, and now I will turn the presentation over to Kevin.
Thank you, Megan. It's my pleasure to be with you all today, and I want to personally thank you for taking the time to attend today's event. As Megan mentioned, we're going to be focusing on how you can use technology to enhance the talent management lifecycle. Okay, so again, as Megan mentioned too, please, as we go through this, I encourage you to submit questions as they pop into your head, and again, we'll take some time and answer those at the end if they're submitted through the webinar, and if not, after the fact. Okay, well, let me start by giving you a little bit of background and overview of Talent Quest. We've been around for about 40 years. And are really uniquely positioned in the marketplace, and slightly different than some other providers out there in this talent management space. And I think a couple of the unique elements is, first of all, we're the only provider in the space that combines both talent management consulting with the talent management technology. On the consulting side, the types of work that we do is we work with organizations to really help them upfront with executive level assessments. We do a lot of competency development, management training, leadership development programs, succession planning, process consultation, those types of things. And again, integrate that very closely into our talent management software. We work with organizations of all types and sizes around the world. Another one of the things that I think differentiates us is really our commitment to client service. We started out as a consulting organization 40 years ago, and that same service mentality lives and breathes in us today. We're happy to say that we boast a 98% client retention rate, which those of you on the phone know is really a leading rate in the industry today. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the types of clients we work with, and as I said, lots of organizations around the world. This just gives you a flavor of some of those organizations. What you'll notice is there's some big clients, there's some small clients, private sector, public sector, government, across the board, and really the ability to provide customized and configured solutions for our clients lends itself to really any size organization and in any industry. So, all right, let's move on to today's topic. And as we use the term talent management and talent management lifecycle, we probably all have different pictures or different definitions of what that means. So what I wanted to do is really start by defining, at least from our perspective, what we view as that talent management lifecycle. So in the first phase, when we talk about selection, and maybe you combine onboarding with that, we're talking about activities such as what you do to attract top talent. Once you've attracted them, how do you source them? How do you assess their fit into the company, into the culture, into the position? And then ultimately, once you hire them, how do you onboard them? In the next phase of management, we're talking about things such as once you have them on board, how do you set goals and set expectations and align them to the organizational goals? How do you then measure ongoing performance? And ultimately, how do you reward your top performers in the form of compensation? In the development phase, we're looking at things such as how do you identify gaps and creating a learning plan based on those gaps. Oftentimes, this comes through many different phases, which we'll see here when we get into a demonstration. We're also talking about coaching and training management training, leadership development programs, and then ultimately measuring their progress towards that learning plan that has been created. And lastly, in the retention phase, we're looking and talking about things that you do to reinforce culture, to measure engagement of your workforce, promoting from within, and really succession planning across the board. Now, a key to all of this and a foundational element throughout the talent management lifecycle is an organization's competencies. And these, as we know, are the skills and abilities that are necessary for success and really play a part in every phase of the talent management lifecycle. So another critical piece when you think about talent management and the impact it has in these different phases. Okay, so before we jump into the demo itself, I thought it would be helpful to, now that we've defined what that talent management lifecycle looks like, to give you a little bit of insight into our platform, our talent management software platform. And this visual, I think, does a good job of at least laying that out and really showing you where the different modules fit in the different phases. So as you can see, going from selection all the way to retention. And on the front end of the selection phase, we really first start interacting with an assessment module. This is a personality-based assessment and is really built around being able to create benchmark profiles of success for a given position. Oftentimes, at this point, we will integrate in with the company's applicant tracking system to make sure that assessments are automatically created. We then move into a goal-setting module to really automate the corporate goal-setting process and how those are cascaded down through the organization all the way to the individual level. Then flows into the performance module to really, again, measure ongoing performance. This may be everything from new hire reviews to annual reviews, etc. There is then a compensation module to, again, reward performance. We have a dedicated 360 survey module. Again, this is while we do multi-rater appraisals and co-raters from a performance standpoint, this is really a standalone dedicated module to really focus in on gap analysis and identify areas that need to be targeted from a development perspective. Then we do focus in on development itself. So there's a whole resource library of training seminars and books and videos and audios that we can map to an organization's competencies, again, to present targeted behavioral-based development items. From an integration standpoint, this is another area where oftentimes we'll integrate with an organization's learning management system. There's a succession module that really does everything from allowing you to collect and perform talent reviews to bench strength analysis, talent searches, so on and so forth, to really, again, understand and give you some visibility throughout the organization. And then lastly, there's a module for conducting surveys. These would be employee engagement surveys or pulse surveys, any types of surveys that you may do throughout the organization. And at the heart of all this, there's a very rich employee profile that we'll see that really is everything about the employee. There's a competency module to manage your organization's competency models, and of course reporting and analytics that layer across all of this. And on top of that, again, I mentioned some of the integration pieces. We do often integrate with the company's core HRIS or payroll system to make sure that we can get all of your employee data into the system. Okay, so let's now that we've talked about the talent management lifecycle, we've looked a little bit about the specific platform, let's actually take a look at the software itself. And what I'm going to do here is begin by logging in as a candidate, Aaron Brown. And so Aaron is a candidate for Verum Analytics, which is a fictitious company that we're going to be working within today. And Aaron can receive that initial login information a couple of ways. One, as I mentioned, if we integrate with your applicant tracking system, we can do so in a way that when a candidate reaches a certain part of the process, it automatically generates an assessment for them to complete, and all done through single sign-on, etc. That process can also be managed through our system, and where a recruiting manager or hiring manager can come in and within a matter of minutes actually create and launch an assessment for a candidate. That candidate gets a unique username and password, and then has the ability to log in and actually complete that assessment. So we're going to log in here as Aaron, again, candidate here, and Aaron is taken directly into the TQ system. What you'll notice is, first and foremost, Aaron has a task to actually complete an assessment, and within one click, Aaron can actually be into filling out the assessment. Now, it is important to mention I'm doing this clearly through my PC. We do have mobile versions of the system as well, so a candidate could complete their assessment through an iPad, through an iPhone, through any other type of smartphone as well. What you'll see here is really a series of questions that they can, and statements that they answer from very inaccurate to very accurate. It's a very intuitive user interface, radio button driven, and we do actually save the questions after every click that's made throughout the assessment itself. It typically takes the candidate about 20 to 40 minutes to complete, depending upon which version of the assessment and what type of assessment they're taking. But once they've done that, the results are immediately generated. And what happens is an email is sent to the hiring manager, and in that email we can actually include a PDF version of the report, or of course the hiring manager can access the assessment through the interface itself. So, as I mentioned, the key to all this is actually being able to create a customized benchmark profile that identifies what success looks like in a given position. And we do that by testing the individuals that currently work in that role. Let's say it's a sales position, and then look at their performance to identify which traits and characteristics predict success. So as Erin completes this assessment, her results are going to automatically be compared against that benchmark profile. Okay, so let's assume Erin has gone through that entire assessment. We're now going to take a different view, and we're actually going to log in as Carmen. And Carmen Hernandez is an employee in the HR department at Verum Analytics, and we're going to log in as Carmen, to take a look at the assessment results. So as Carmen logs in, she is actually taken to her homepage as well, and as you can see, has a similar task dashboard that tells her exactly what she needs to do. Now, Carmen's busy, and there's a lot of different things going on at Verum Analytics, so she's got a number of tasks that she needs to complete that we can see here in the middle. But first and foremost, she also has easy access to look up any and all information about current employees as well as candidates. So within a click, Carmen can be into pulling up Erin's assessment results. So we want to come in here and pull up Erin's assessment results, and now can actually be presented and see this output report. So let me walk you through a little bit what we see here, again on this assessment, to give us some information to determine, is Erin going to be a good fit at Verum? So we start by providing a narrative description of the individual, everything from their problem-solving skills to their emotional and motivational patterns, their interpersonal skills. And this is storyboard type of information, but lots of good details about Erin and her tendencies. We then get into actually the graph of the traits that we measure. We measure 16 core traits and characteristics. And what you'll notice here is a couple of things. One, the red triangle is Erin, the candidate's score on that particular trait. The green bar is the ideal range in which you want the individual to fall based on, again, that profile of testing your top performers in this position, which is a manager position. You'll also notice that some of these traits are in blue italics. These are the traits that were the key traits, the predictive traits for predicting success for this manager position within Verum. You'll also notice that there is a similarity index, and this is a score between 1 and 100 that tells you how similar Erin as a candidate is to this position within Verum. So lots of good information in the graph itself. As we continue scrolling down, we're then presented with some additional information, really around potential assets that Erin may have, potential strengths, as well as potential limitations. And the balance of the report is then going to focus in on these potential limitations and provide us with an interview guide that we can use to probe to determine, is this an issue or has this been an issue in the past? So again, for each one of the potential limitations, we're presented with interview questions. So not only what to ask, but what to listen for in their response. And as you can see, you get a number of targeted behavioral-based questions to probe that area. What are some behaviors you should be looking for in their response? as well as background questions that you can use to determine has this been an issue previously. So again, we get that for each limitation. And then last and but not least is if you were to onboard this person, there are a series of developmental recommendations and coaching tips that really allow you to, again, provide some targeted development plan information around these particular tendencies or areas. Okay, so as we can see, lots of information, again, that you can gather on somebody you don't know to determine are they going to be a good fit culturally and more specifically for that particular position. So now that we've taken a look at the assessments themselves in that selection phase of being able to determine fit for the organization, let's talk about some other areas of the technology that can really help you perform your talent management activities in a more efficient manner and give you more visibility into the workforce and into your employees, and also increase accountability throughout the organization. And the next thing I want to talk about is really how you can leverage the employee profile, or some people refer to this as a talent profile. You can leverage this when actually onboarding your employees to really start gathering some very rich information. So as you can see in my toolbar here, I have quick access to my profile, in this case Carmen's profile, but it'll give you a sense of the type of information you can collect here. So as you can see, we can see Carmen's picture. We can see what position she's in. Also, this additional information that we see up here, such as their gender, date of birth, email address, hire date, those types of things, that's information that would typically come over from an integration point with your HR or payroll system. In this profile, we can also collect information such as some mobility stuff, their desired position, their willingness to relocate, their willingness to travel. So now, from an accountability perspective, you're encouraging each employee to fill out information about their desires and their interest. Now, from an ease of use standpoint, some of you may say, gosh, that must be time consuming to fill out this type of profile. But you'll also notice that we have an integration point with LinkedIn. So the first time somebody logs in, all they need to do is import their LinkedIn information, and it'll pull in all of this information that you see, such as employment information, both internal and external positions that they've held. You can import job skills and language skills. You can education, both formal education as well as other types of education, training seminars, etc., as well as any memberships, licenses, and honors. So in addition to being able to pull stuff from your HR system, that LinkedIn integration really helps in filling out the profile initially. Now, other means, certainly the manager of the particular employee or HR administrators also have the ability to update the profile itself. So as you can see, again, a very quick way, lots of robust information in here about the employee, and as we'll see in a moment, all of this information becomes searchable and becomes very powerful when you can leverage technology, again, to give you more visibility to your workforce. All right, so now that we've discussed the selection/onboarding phase of the talent management lifecycle, let's move into the management phase. And here I want to start by really showing you how you can leverage technology to properly set expectations and align an individual's goals. So as I mentioned, there's a goal module in the technology that allows you to set not only corporate goals, but then have those cascade down and ultimately align with individual goals. And most organizations have a formal goal setting process. This may be with the most commonly probably starts with the employee setting their goals and then having a discussion with their manager. So what I want to show you today is really how we can leverage that. And in my task dashboard here, I see some goals here that I need to approve for one of my direct reports, Ellen Van Winkle. So with the click of a button, and I have the ability to actually be taken into Ellen's goal dashboard, and I can see the particular goals that she has set and have some visibility to that, as well as then make any changes or comments or enhancements that I need to. So as we can see here, I see that Ellen has set 3 performance-based goals, and then also has started and entered 2 items into her development plan. With each of these, I can, in a summary, see what the goal is, any weighting, that has been applied to place more emphasis on one goal over another, as well as the due date for these. Now, if I click into this particular goal, I can actually see more information about it, such as, again, the title, what departmental or corporate goal this maps to. So this is ensuring alignment and making sure that as an individual sets goals, it aligns to what the organization is trying to achieve. What category it goes into. The ability to provide a more detailed description. So one feedback I may provide here is that Ellen needs to provide a more detailed description of how she wants to increase revenue by 10%, as well as the start date and target completion date. Now you'll also notice there's a progress towards goal bar here. And what this does and enables is it allows employees to come in throughout the course of the year and track activities that they complete that contribute towards the achievement of this particular goal. So I can view any previous activities that may have put in this, such as closing a particular deal, and very easily add additional activities that again will contribute towards the completion of this goal. So put it in, the date, the description, and then update the progress. And now maybe I'm 20% complete with this particular goal. But as you can see, very quickly, as a manager, I can look at Ellen's goal dashboard, see what she's thinking. We can have this conversation, make any adjustments that are necessary, and then very easily approve these particular goals. If there's anything that needs to be sent back to her, I can also do that with the click of a button. So we've seen both now once you've onboarded this person, how do you align them and set their expectations for the coming year, both from a performance standpoint as well as from a development standpoint. Okay, so continuing into the phase of management, we've set the goals. Now let's fast forward into the year and take a look at then how do those goals flow into an annual performance review, and how do we measure ongoing performance. So again, from Carmen's task dashboard that we see here, we see that she has a task to actually fill out an appraisal for Ellen. So again, with the click of a button, I can actually be into Ellen's performance review. And now we're taking directly into her form. A couple of things to note here. Obviously, the system, as I mentioned earlier, very configurable, and any system you use should be able to be configured around your organization's process, your organization's content, your competencies, and all your workflow, etc. This example, in this particular company here, Verum, we see that the different tabs here represent the different sections of the performance review form. So the introductory text, this is all configurable. This is default language, but again, can be configured to include your specific language. Any instructional text. The first main section that we see here, and this is very common for most organizations, is we want to rate goals that were set at the beginning of the year, and then maybe we want to also look at specific competencies. So as we can see, the goals that we just looked at in Ellen's goal dashboard are automatically pulled into the performance review form to be rated. So we see what the goal is. We see a 5-point rating scale. Now this rating scale is completely configurable as well, as are the different labels. One of the other things that you'll notice is, again, technology should be an enabler. It shouldn't make decisions for you, but it should enable you to do something more efficiently. And again, I said give you more visibility. And one of the things we've tried to do is to really take information, no matter where it lives in the system, and bring it to the forefront when and where you need it. So in this case, we've embedded this progress towards goal bar right into the performance evaluation form, so that as I'm filling that out, I can click in and see those details without having to toggle to another area of the system. You'll also notice that we have the ability, if we wanted to, provide descriptions of the rating scale itself. Providing comments is easy, and there is a spell check capability throughout as well to, again, ensure that there's some consistency and we're not misspelling any words. If I were to take a look at the competency section, this is, again, allows you to identify and really present any competencies that you feel are important and need to be measured for this position of key account manager, which Ellen's in. So here we see a competency of strategy with 3 behaviors defining what strategy looks like. Now again, these competencies are all configurable as well, and I would say probably 90% of our clients actually use their own competency model. Now, for those that don't have that, we have a library of competencies that that can be used and be referenced, as well as can help you with creating those competencies. You'll also notice here that we've provided a more detailed rating scale, 5-point scale still, but different definitions here. And as I hover over, I can see, what do we mean by needs immediate improvement or consistently exceeds expectations? So really level setting and getting everybody on the same page as far as what we mean in these particular areas. One of the nice things, again, another tool that can really be a nice enabler here is we have a writing assistant built into the application. A lot of managers struggle with providing meaningful comments, and to counter that, or to give them some tools, is this writing assistant allows you to click on any of these little snippets of the definition for strategy, and it's going to create some short sentences. I can then adjust the tone of these in a more positive manner or a more negative manner, and even rearrange the order. And this is going to provide and build a sentence that in a short paragraph that I can then insert into the comment area and tweak further. Again, just another example of how you can leverage technology to enhance your process. Also important to mention that most organizations typically do a self-appraisal. Not all, and that's an option that exists here. But if you do, what happens is the system will automatically email the manager to let them know that the employee has completed that self-appraisal, and then as I'm filling it out as the manager, all I need to do is click here, and I can see, how did Ellen rate herself, and what comments did Ellen put in here. This can be particularly helpful if you get an area where there's some great discrepancy between how I view Ellen's performance and how she views her performance as well. Now, for organizations that need additional raters in a multi-rater or a co-rater environment, that can easily be done as well. And again, as you can see, all I need to do is click to be able to see what other co-raters had to say about Ellen's performance, and then I can choose to incorporate that as I see fit as the manager. Okay, that gives you a good view, I think, of kind of what the form can look like. Again, keeping in mind, we can also do open-ended types of questions in here. All different types of things can be accommodated, but the point is, you can really leverage technology to make the performance review process much, much more efficient. So, we've now gone through a couple different phases here in a couple different areas. We've talked about the use of assessments in the selection phase. We've talked about how do we leverage a profile from an onboarding perspective. When we get into the management phase, we looked at the goal module and how you can align and set expectations, and then how you can use performance reviews to really measure that ongoing performance. Let's now transition into the development phase of the talent management lifecycle. And there's a number of different things that you can do within talent management systems to really look at development. One would be a 360, and this is a great way to get perspective from those that work around an individual of how they view their performance. What are their perceived strengths? What are the areas that they perceive that need improvement? And you can really do that to really get some good insight, and then, of course, based on those gaps, create some development opportunities. Technology can also help you, again, simplify that process. One neat thing that our clients seem to like a lot is the ability to rate multiple people at one time. So by clicking on these check boxes, instead of actually filling Chris's 360 out at once, I can actually do Chris and Rollo at the same time. Again, providing a more efficient way to collect that information. Another thing that we can do when we talk about development is to actually pull up an employee's most recent performance appraisal form. So in this case, I want to pull up Rollo's, and with a few types on the keyboard there, I can see Rollo and be taken into back into Rollo's employee profile, and this is a past results page of his profile that shows me everything and anything that's been done regarding Rollo's past performance, any 360s, as well as any assessments. Again, one place to view all this information. And from here, I can actually click into Rollo's most recent performance review form. And what this is going to do is, again, just give me another angle, maybe in addition to his or her assessment or 360s, but to be able to look at Rollo's past appraisal to see what opportunities were noted for development. So I can see overall score, I can see how I rated Rollo on goals and competencies, any weightings there. And then as I scroll through, again, see my rating, his rating, but more importantly, what I want to fast forward to down is an area where we can identify Rollo's 3 highest strengths in this case, as well as the 3 areas for improvement. The number is configurable as well, but you want to focus on a couple of things. We can then take each one of these areas for improvement and from our development portion of the system actually present coaching tips and developmental recommendations that address this area of strategy. So strategy and relationships and coaching and develop are areas that I need to improve on, and we can see those. And again, from an integration standpoint, we could have this, if we click on this particular area, be taken directly into your learning management system, for example. Or very easy to copy and paste the recommendations here and add them to the development plan that we saw earlier in the goal module. Okay, so we've taken a look at the development component there, and as you can see, lots of different ways which we can gather information about developmental needs, whether it be a 360, whether it be looking at past performance reviews from this most recent year, the year before, or even from other types of assessments that you want to look at. Let's now transition to the retention phase of the talent management lifecycle. So again, we've talked about the selection, management, and development, and retention kind of being that last phase. And where I want to focus here on a couple areas is really around succession planning. Now, of course, I mentioned the survey capabilities, and surveys are a great way to really get a read on your organization and understand where, from an engagement standpoint, how engaged they are and how pleased your employees are with different areas of the business. Great way to get that information. But I want to focus this time today on looking at the succession components. And I want to start with a process and how you can leverage technology and tools to really aid a talent review process. And this is something, again, that most organizations do in some way, shape, or form. Some are more formal, some are less formal. But at the end of the day, most organizations want to know some key information about your employees. Their promotability, possible next roles, their potential. Are they high potential? Are they low potential? And risk of loss information. So as a manager, Carmen can come in and pull up a couple of employees. So let's pull up our friend Rollo, who we've talked about already. And she has the ability to pull up to 3 at a time. We'll pull up our friend Ellen that we've been talking about. And as you can see, Carmen has already done a talent review previously on these 2 individuals. So it's going to pull the most recent talent review data in. If it was the first time this had been done, obviously this information would be blank. But very quickly, I can review to see promotability information. So Rollo is marked as a high potential with the ability to move up more than 1 level. Is that still the case? Great. If not, I can make some changes. And obviously this drop down is configurable as well. We can also look at possible next roles. We see that Rollo has been indicated to be possible to go into the VP of Sales role and is immediately ready for that. If there was another position that we wanted to look at, all we need to do is type in the title. We see VP of Talent Management. We can choose the readiness for that particular role, as well as provide any other comments, and again, that can be added as a possible next role. We can then look at potential. If this is something that you're measuring as part of your performance review, or some organizations do a potential assessment, that number, that score, can automatically be pulled into the talent review field as well. Then we can also look at risk of loss information and note their risk of loss, low, medium, or high. Again, the ability to configure this. And their reason. Maybe it's low because they're fully engaged. From Ellen's standpoint, it's medium. Maybe she's not super happy with compensation, and we need to be aware of that. So as you can see very quickly, Carmen as a manager can conduct a talent review for each one of her team members. Now this could also be done by HR. HR has access and visibility to this, and you can actually control who can see this talent review process. Well, this information then feeds seamlessly into a bench strength analysis. And this is a a report that leverages an interactive org chart. One of the things I failed to mention, which is quickly and is easy to point out, is this My Team button up here for each manager provides an org chart view of your team. Similar to this, but does not have some of this additional bench strength data layered in. Now again, we can control who can see information within the system, and you can restrict managers from seeing it, or you can certainly give them access. But here we see that risk of loss data has been layered into this bench strength analysis report, as well as the reasons. But I also have the ability to show potential successors for this given role of VP of Sales. So here we see Rollo, his readiness is immediate. We see Ellen, as well as I can then expand to see some additional information, such where does Rollo fall on a 9-box of performance versus potential, as well as what is Rollo's desired position, and to make sure that there's alignment between what he wants to do and where we think he would be a good fit. So again, very easily, very quick, I can navigate through this bench strength analysis report. I can drill down into other areas of the organization. Assuming I have the right level of access, I can type in another employee's name and be taken directly to their their node of the org chart. But very quickly, in a visual manner, we can see where are some areas we need to be concerned with, and do we have the right people in place to fill that void should it become available. Okay, so let's now transition and take a look at how you can leverage some talent search capabilities built into technology to give you more visibility into your workforce. So all of the things that we saw earlier in today's session around that employee profile become searchable. And this talent search screen gives me the ability to define what it is I'm looking for. So if I want to look for everybody that reports to a particular manager, all I can do is I can type their name in or pull into the drop down, or everybody that's in a given particular location, easy to see. People that have been in the organization for a certain number of years or in their position for a certain number of years. I can also get into rating information and rating criteria. So very common ones are show me everybody that has a performance score above 4 or a potential score above 4. But you'll also notice we have the ability to pull other metrics in here, and these may be certain competencies or critical competencies in your organization, or even personality traits and characteristics that you're using in your assessment process. All that becomes searchable, as well as getting into things such as formal education and job skills, willingness to relocate, those types of things. Now, we also have the ability here to save a search, and in this case I've saved a search for high performers and high potentials, and so as opposed to redefining my criteria every time I come in to run this, I can simply click in my save search. It's going to generate what that search criteria is and how I defined it, and then also allow me to now conduct that search. So again, very quickly I can search through the entire organization based on the things that are important to me today or at that given time to fill that project or fill that position, or identify individuals that may need to go into a high potential program. In this case, that's what we're looking at is high performers with high potential. So we can see immediately the list of individuals that match that criteria that I searched for. There's 20 people. Trying to, again, make sure we bring information to the forefront, we provide a quick little thumbnail of their picture, a quick link to a summary of, in this case, John's profile, to really see some good information without going into the full profile. So I can see his employment information, his top job skills, his academic background, as well as any past rating information that's important for me. I can also see what degree of fit and how John matched that search criteria. So was he 100% match based on what I was looking for? No, but he's got a high degree of match, and this is also presented in the order of highest fit down to the lowest fit based on that search criteria. We also very quickly see where he falls on that talent grid of performance versus potential. So again, lots of information right here in the search results. So I can now do a couple of things with this information. I can export it into Excel. Maybe I want to select everybody, all 20 of these people, and maybe I want to then plot them on a talent grid of, again, performance versus potential. just to visually see, again, where they fall and how that appears in an interactive talent grid. So with a click of a button, we've now plotted all 20 of those individuals into this talent grid. And I can hover over and see their picture, again, what their scores were, one click to pull up their profile. But I also can be presented with some additional information here. And one neat thing is this is not a static talent grid. This is actually a dynamic grid in which if I wanted to then maybe plot performance versus a leadership rating or sales quota or any other metric that is important to the organization, with a click of a button I can do so, and it'll reformat based on that new X and Y axis. I also have the ability right from here to filter this further. So instead of going back to the search criteria, if I want to filter based on any one of these areas, again, which are configurable, I can do so, and then remove people from my search results, etc. So trying again to make sure to provide an efficient way to give you more visibility to your workforce. Well, maybe now we've kind of viewed some of this. Well, maybe we want to take this list of people and compare them in a side-by-side manner. Again, the goal here is not for technology to make decisions for you. It's to give you more visibility to the information so that you can make informed decisions. Make it more efficient, give you more visibility, and increase the accountability factor throughout the workforce. So here we can very quickly see these three individuals side by side, and we've got multiple others that we can look at. And we're taking that employee profile and breaking it down into bite-sized chunks. So if I want to drill down further into their professional background or their skills or their rating information, with a click of a button, I can be into actually seeing that portion of their profiles. So as you can see, again, very easily presenting this information and trying to do so in a quick, easy way. Okay, so we've talked about a lot so far. We looked at the selection phase of the talent management lifecycle and how you can use assessments to select, how you can use an employee profile to onboard them, how you can use a goal setting module to align expectations, then how do you use technology to measure performance in an ongoing way, how do you identify development gaps and create a development plan through either 360s or past performance appraisal results, and then ultimately into succession planning activities to help with retention and promoting from within and identifying a group of people from a high potentials that you want to take care of and nurture. Now across all this as well is there's a number of aggregate reports that you can use, again, to provide you with more information. And I'm not going to click into all of these, but just to give you a sense of the number of reports. It tells you kind of what the report is, just a definition of it. These are all on-demand reports that can be generated anytime you want and can be filtered and sliced and diced based on whatever you want to look at within your organization, whether it's those in a given department or in a given position. So anyway, it gives you a good sense of a lot of the reporting capabilities that to really, once you have all this rich data, to be able to make some use of it and again, to have it drive decisions in the organization. Okay, so let me click back in and let's kind of summarize what we've looked at. And before I do so, this will give you just a quick view of what do some of these aggregate reports look like. And as you can see, we use charts and graphs and tables and different ways to present that information, but lots of different options there. All right, so let's summarize when we talk about what would an optimized talent management lifecycle mean. And when I say optimized, one that leverages technology, again, to make it more efficient, to give you more visibility, and to increase the accountability throughout the workforce. So in the selection phase, we talked about those assessments and the employee profile. In the management phase, we talked about leveraging goals and performance, and while we didn't show compensation, how do you use compensation capabilities to reward performance? In the development phase, we looked at and talked about 360s to identify areas for need, and then how do you use targeted learning content to then create a development plan to bridge those gaps in the identified areas. And then from a retention standpoint, we talked about how you can use surveys to get a pulse of the engagement of the organization, but then how you can also leverage succession planning capabilities identify high potentials, to promote from within, and again, have greater visibility into the workforce. Okay, so I know we went over a lot of stuff, tried to do so at a very high level. I'm sure that there are lots of questions, and we'll try to get through a number of these now and take a look at really what those are. If you have any other questions that you weren't comfortable submitting, again, through the webinar interface, feel free to email me. As Megan mentioned, my email address is ksessions@talentquest.com. But we'll now move on to the questions.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kevin. It looks like we have some more broad questions and then some related specifically to the various tools that you showed. So I'll start off with a couple of these broad questions. One of them says, it seems like there are many aspects of the system that we could use. How do you decide what to implement first?
Great question. And really that depends on what's going on in the organization, and that it really varies from organization to organization. But I think it's the important thing there is to understand what's going on from a business perspective within your organization. And if there's something that's obviously broken, where there's a pain point, well, that's an obvious place to start. If not, it may be just depending upon where you are in your business cycle. I think probably in an ideal world, it's logical to start with making sure you're selecting the right people, and so maybe you want to start with some assessments. That's quick and easy. You can get those going in a matter of, less than a week. And certainly performance management tends to fall more on a cyclical time frame. So it really depends on what the pain points are.
Okay. Next question is, we've never used a software-based system for talent management. How easy is it to learn this system, and what sort of support do you provide?
Yeah, another good question. Well, I think hopefully what you saw from going through this is that, and technology can be scary to some people, but what I hope you saw is a very intuitive, very user-friendly interface. We focused a lot on one-click access. So from how easy is it to use, it tends to be very intuitive and very easy to roll out. Typically, training is very good and very helpful to provide, but for most of your end users, again, it's going to be very straightforward. From a timing standpoint, we can typically get organizations up and running in a 6 to 8 week time frame for when you look at most modules within the system itself. Some are a little bit quicker, but 6 to 8 weeks is a good time frame.
Okay, this one is specifically related to performance appraisals. This company currently does their performance appraisals on paper. How do we translate our paper forms into an automated form?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, it's taking a look at what we are measuring on our paper form. Is it what we want to measure? A lot of times, because paper or Excel or Word can be still so time-consuming from an administrative standpoint, that we don't truly ask the right questions or the things that we really want to ask, because it's just unmanageable. So if it's not getting it, producing the desired end result, technology can prove to be a catalyst for change. So it gives you the opportunity to look at, are we measuring the right things? If you are, then it's simply a matter of really leveraging the tools that we have and the design wizards that we have built into the system itself to really recreate or replicate the types of questions that you have on paper into a web-based world.
Okay, we have a couple questions in relation to the goals. First one is, how does the goals module aid in setting and tracking SMART goals?
Yeah, so SMART goals is a wonderful topic. It's one that's been around for obviously for years and years. And it really refers to making sure we're setting specific goals that are measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. And as we saw as we went through the technology, the goal dashboard allows you to really make sure that you're setting goals that clearly align with organizational goals, but then also you can be very specific with what it is you want to measure, and when do you want them to start, and when do you want them to have it completed by. So again, it's just leveraging technology to make that easier, to give you visibility, and to enforce alignment of that individual goal to a corporate goal, to make sure that that it is a SMART goal.
And we really, this next company said, we really like the ability for the employee to set the goals and for someone else to approve them. Can that be anyone in the organization setting goals and approving them?
Yeah, so there's different options that you can go with here. A common one, I think, where you're trying to increase accountability and increase buy-in. A very common way, and probably one of the best ways, is to start with the employee setting their goals. And because again, it's giving them ownership of the process, and you're asking for their input of what they think they want to work on. And then from a compliance standpoint, and to make sure that they're setting the right types of goals, obviously then having those be routed to a manager to be approved is a great way. But if you wanted to start with the manager setting and approving those goals, that's certainly an option as well. So as you're hearing I think a pretty common theme throughout this is it depends, and there's options because of how configurable the software is. It presents options to how you want to do this.
Okay, we have 3 final questions. This one relates to the 360 feedback surveys. Are the rater responses confidential when doing a 360?
Absolutely, and that's a critical part of any good 360 process. I think there's a couple critical things. One, the anonymity of the process, and I'm glad I was able to say that without messing up that word. But it's important that people know and trust that their responses are going to be anonymous, and they're really pooled together. All of the direct reports responses are pooled together and aggregated, and the peers are. And that's important so that people can provide honest feedback and get a real honest perspective of how they're viewed. The other key piece, which is related to the question, but when you're doing 360s, make sure you do a good job of providing feedback back to that individual. Situations where that's not handled properly is where 360s can get some a negative viewpoint. But if you really put some time into handling the feedback and doing a good job of providing that feedback on the results of the 360 with the individual, you're going to have a great success.
Okay, this is in relation to our succession management. Can additional metrics such as sales metrics be pulled into search functionality in that talent search you were showing early? Yeah,
so certainly, and that's an area where, again, there's configurability within the solution, and very common ones there are being able to search for performance and for potential. But beyond that, if you want to look at sales quota, and if you're tracking that elsewhere, that can be uploaded into the system. But again, you may want to be able to search on certain competencies in the organization and those that have a certain proficiency level within those competencies. Or again, personality traits. Maybe you want to find people that are very detail-oriented or very conscientious. Those provide you the flexibility to search on any number of those types of things.
Okay, and then the last question is, how does all of the employee data get into the system?
Yeah, so a couple of different ways. Initially, we will typically integrate with an organization's either HRIS system or payroll system to import and pull in all of the employee information. And this is basic information. We're not taking anything sensitive, but it's common stuff. Who their boss is, their date of hire, their email address, their title, their employee ID, those types of things. And then we will update that, and if it's automated, it can automatically be updated every other day or once a week, whatever frequency an organization wishes. And so that's one way. And again, with respect to when we look at things like employee profile, while the basics may be pulled in from your integration with your HR or payroll system, more detailed information such as educational background and job skills and language skills, those types of things, can either be input by the individual, by their manager, by somebody in HR, or again through the LinkedIn capabilities, integration capabilities that we have in place.
Okay, well that concludes the questions. So I guess this would also conclude the presentation. And Kevin, I know that we all thank you for showing us the software. And should you have any questions after we conclude here, please feel free to email ksessions@talentquest.com.
Thank you very much, everyone. I appreciate, again, your time and attendance, and I hope this proved to be a meaningful hour of your time.